Okay, good morning everybody, and another round of coffee and questions. And this morning we're going to talk about paint remover and what I think is the best one. And I put up a picture of it here, and I'll show you the actual ad in a second off of Amazon. But I had a friend come over, we were playing around with a barbecue. He had began to make it, and he was running into all kinds of problems. And he said, hey, I'll come by, any chance, for a small fee, you can fix this thing for me. And I said, sure, just bring it by. So he came by, we put it out in the driveway, I took a look at it, and I'll show you pictures of it, and then I'll talk about the things that we did to it. But it was painted with this really bad, funky red color and brown, and it looked like hell. I told him, look, I got some Kleen strip in the garage. It's aircraft paint remover. This stuff works better than anything I've used so far. Let's put it on here. Let's just see what happens. So that's what this picture's for. It's a product that I use frequently. I did one video, I think, in the past about it, but I probably didn't go into much detail about it, so I thought we'd do a quick video. I tell you about the product, show you how I used it, talk to you about the little project that we used it on, and we'll go from there. So let me show you a picture of the actual ad, then we'll get right after the project and the discussion and the questions. Okay, now here's the ad off of Amazon of the exact product that I buy. It's made by Kleen Strip, aircraft paint remover. This stuff works far better than anything I've tried so far. And I've read through the reviews and I've read through the comments on how people apply it. I'm going to go through how I apply it. It works great for me. And like I said, it's better than anything I've come across so far. Now, there is some negatives on here, but when I read them, I really think people sometimes don't apply it correctly. So we'll discuss that as I go through the project. So let's take a look at the project that he brought over and that we worked on, and then I'll take you step by step and I'll answer the questions as we go. Okay, you'll see that this is sitting in front of the garage, and you'll see all my junk packed in there, but this is a small barbecue. It was made out of a tank. He welded a round metal post to it, and it goes down to the ground. Now, what's not shown here is he took some wrought iron, and he cut a notch in it, and he made a cross. And then that round post goes down and sets onto the cross. What I did is I took my camera, and I tried to photograph things as we went along. And I took a picture of this. So this is after I put the first coat on there. Now this stuff, and I'm going to show you a picture of it real quick. Give me just a sec. Okay, I overlaid a photograph. This stuff comes out like a thickened brown material, liquid material, and you can see it on the brush, and it's rather thick and it's brown. Now make sure the first thing you do is shake the can up real well when you get it, because you don't know how long the can's been sitting. Otherwise you get like with this clear liquid stuff, and that's not what it's supposed to look like. So shake it up real good. I poured it out here into this cup. It's the thick brown material, and so now I go ahead and I applied that first coat like I was saying. And I apply it all over the tank, on the whole thing. I even put it on that upspout smokestack thing that you see there. Now, that's the first thing that we did. Now, this stuff, it says on the can, let it sit for 5 to 15 minutes. Okay, now that's true. Don't be in a rush. Put it on there, let it do its work. Now, what I did after about 15 minutes, I put another coat on it to keep it wet and to keep it just saturated with this Kleen strip. I put a second coat on there, and I put it on real thick over the whole thing, just with a paintbrush, one of those throwaway chip brushes, and I let it sit. So I'm doing other things around the shop, goofing around, and I just let it sit there and I let it do its thing, and you're going to notice it's going to start to blister up on you. Okay, so I changed the picture to show you how it's blistering. Now this is after that second coat. I haven't quite let it sit the 15 minutes, but I applied a third coat. Because it was working, and I just wanted to keep this thing wet, saturated, and I wanted it to eat through that paint the best that it could. Now, as a precaution, so I can tell you, you can't see it in the picture, I put some plastic sheeting below this, and it all sits on there. So if anything drops off, it drops onto that. Now, it's not going to hurt anything, but I know that I'm going to end up scraping this pretty soon to get all of this residue off of there. So this is like a preventative thing so that all that stuff falls onto the plastic sheeting, and when I'm done, I just fold the plastic sheeting up and I throw it in the trash. So that's not shown in the picture. But anyway, this is 3 coats. I let it sit probably a good 45 minutes plus, and I just kept watching it, and you'll see it continue to blister and blister and blister. So even though the can says 5 to 15 minutes, and it may require more than 1 coat. See, everybody in these comments that gave it a negative said, well, I put it on, and after several minutes it wasn't doing anything. And so I gave up, or, you get all these critical comments. I don't think they're applying it correctly. So kind of the bottom line is I let this sit. It's not going to hurt anything as long as I keep it wet with the Kleen strip, and it'll continue to eat away at the paint. Okay, so what do we do next? Then I get a putty knife, a plastic one, and I start to scrape this thing down to bare metal. And make sure you got gloves on. Make sure it's outside. You don't want to breathe this stuff. It's nasty. So you want it in a well-ventilated area. I would encourage you to wear some kind of gloves. If you don't, you get it on you, you're going to know it. It's going to start to burn. And you're going to be running for that sink, to wash your hands off, because it'll burn. If you just take those precautions, you'll be fine. And then I use that scraper and I scrape this whole tank down. Okay, so after about 3 coats, I decided, okay, and I've got it. I didn't clean it up or anything. I just used that plastic scraper, scraped everything off the best that I could. Then I washed it down with water, and I washed it off really good. And then I air dried it. And when it was dry, I went over and I got these abrasive wheels. These are paint stripping wheels. You can fit them on the end of a drill. That's what I tried to do. It worked okay, but it wasn't like taking it off rapidly, all the little bits of debris that were still left, stuck to the metal. And I thought, well, there's got to be something better. And I had remember when I was out at the metal supply place, I bought one of these cut brushes, and I'll show you a picture right now. And it actually seemed to work a lot better. So let me show you a picture of what I've got and what I use. Okay, so the picture here, I exploded it up the best I could. It's made by Fournet. It's a cupped wire brush. I put this on the end of my 4.5-inch angle grinder. Then you take a look over here on the right. Then all I did is it took me maybe 30 minutes, something like that. And I went over this whole thing, including the smoke spout, everything. And I went up and down the post, and I went all over it with this cut brush, and it took pretty much 99% or thereabouts of all of that red paint off. It brought it down to that bare steel. So then when I was done doing that, I washed it off one more time. I used my compressed air. I shot it. I set it out in the driveway. I let it dry out really well. So then we didn't have any paint, so we went down to the hardware store and we picked up some high heat, resistant black paint in a spray can. To make it easier, it's just a barbecue, so it doesn't have to be anything like super pretty. And we came back and we got ready to paint it. Now, before I did that, we went around and we touched up all the welds where he was having trouble. Some of the welds aren't the best in the world, but he's like all the rest of us. He's practicing, he's having fun. We went all around and we touched up all the welds, and then when we were done, we felt, okay, we're ready to paint. So I hit this with sandpaper just in a few different spots, like the handle. Or you can switch over to another wire brush, like on the end of a drill where the cut brush can't get to. You could touch it up with that. And at that point, it's ready to paint. So let me change the picture and we'll talk about the rest of it. Okay, before I change the picture, you don't have to buy this particular Fournet cut brush. It's what they had when I was out at the steel supplier. I didn't have one anyway. I wanted one, and rather than go make another trip to like Home Depot or something like that, I went ahead and I got this. Now, this is a good quality cut brush. I'm going to caution you, you don't want to buy the cheap ones at Harbor Freight. All those little metal things, and even on this one it can happen to you, those little metal wire brush things will fly off of there when this thing is spinning at this incredibly fast RPM, and they'll stick into you like throwing darts at a dartboard. Now, the ones at Harbor Freight fly apart real easily. These don't. Get yourself a good quality cut brush. It's not going to cost you that much more. It'll last you a lot longer than any of these other throwaway things. And I've had this one for quite a while, and I just keep it in its package, and I just put it back on the shelf when I'm done. Anyway, enough about that. Let me switch the picture and then we'll go to questions. Okay, so here I'm showing you a picture of what we did when we painted it. Now, we picked up 2 cans of this high heat resistant black, and we used it. Now, I'm not sure what went wrong because we had the can sitting in the workshop. The project's in the shade right outside of the garage, so the metal's not real hot. And I just think one of these cans, I don't know if it was in the paint or what, but you can see all the graininess on the top of this. What we're going to do is when this thing totally dries, I'll sand it with like 220, 320, and I'll go over it again. Because you'll notice on the ends and on the post and everything, the other can that we were using seemed to spray on there perfectly fine. So I have an idea it could have been something in the paint. I'm not totally positive. I mean, I know that we cleaned the surface real well when we washed it down with water because I used a sponge and went over the whole thing and dried it off. Anyway, we will touch that up, but I'm going to change the picture. I'm going to show you one other thing that we went ahead and did for his little barbecue here, and hopefully it'll help him, when he gets home to cook. All right, here we go. Okay, so what we did here is in my scrap pile, I had some of this tube steel laying around from other projects. They were just cut-offs. And we turned around and we took some angle iron. And you can see in the picture in the back where we turn around and we just tack welded in a piece of angle iron in both the back, and what you can't see is there's one in the front. And that creates a place for this rack to sit in there when you're ready to barbecue or what have you. And to make this rack, I just used some tube steel that was scrap. We welded a square, and I went ahead and I put a piece in the middle for support. And I had this expanded metal, again, some more cut-off stuff. We just went ahead quickly with a 4.5-inch angle grinder and a cut-off wheel. We just quickly cut it to size, nothing real fancy, and just tack welded it on there. Then I had a horseshoe, kind of cut it in half, and I put a handle on it for him, and it was done. All right, and in a nutshell, that's what completed this project. So he's got this small barbecue. You could probably, if you're looking at the size of this, it's not a very big tank. It could probably put 4 decent-sized burgers, 2 on each side. It gives you an idea. You know, it was meant for him, his wife, and he's got, you know, a child at home, and he figured it was enough for him without, you know, some big elaborate barbecue, and he just wanted to have some fun and make a project. So this is what he did, but the focus of this is on clean strip. Let me change the picture. We'll go to questions. Okay, so the basics of this is, yes, it does start working in 15 minutes, but that doesn't mean to start scraping in 15. Keep an eye on it. Keep it wet is what I did with the clean strip. I used a total of 3 coats. Like I said, this stuff was caked on there pretty good. And it did come off. It doesn't come off 100%, but it loosens it up. It gets a lot of it off. Then come behind it with that cupped wire brush or whatever abrasive wheel you have. Get it out in a well-ventilated area. These fumes will screw you up. Make sure that you have some type of gloves on, or you better be damn careful because, like I said, you'll be running to the sink to clean it up. And yes, the cleanup is with water. You'll notice when you hose this down at first, you'll still feel like a film on there. So use some kind of a sponge or just keep washing it down till you get that film totally off of there. Then if you feel you need to prep it with a little sandpaper, you know, you can go over and you can scuff and rough the surface if you want to, then wash it down again. That's kind of what we did. We used the compressor, and like I said, we blew dry it, set it out in the sun, make sure it was real dry, and then we were ready to paint. Okay, questions? No, in my case, you know, somebody said, well, you know, like I said, that people think they can just use a chip brush or something and put it on there real thin, like just paint it on there like you would varnish and go, okay, there, it should work, and then it doesn't, and then they get dissatisfied. I put it on thick. Okay, and you can see if you look at this picture close enough, I've got a thick coat on this whole thing, and then I just leave it alone, let it eat through the paint and blister it up real good. And then I use, you don't have to, I like using the plastic paint scrapers. You can find them at Lowe's, you can find them at Harbor Freight or anywhere. They're throwaways, but the plastic ones seem to work real good because you're not gouging into it with like steel on steel. And if that's all you have, I mean, go ahead and use it. You could also use super coarse steel wool if you wanted to, but I'm just telling you what I did and what works for me in this project. And yes, I've tried other paint removing products, I mean, for different things on wood projects to, you know, strip the finish, and on different, you know, metal projects. This just happens to be the best I've run across so far, so I continue to use it. You can get it on Amazon. They might even have it out at the supply stores. I don't know. I buy, you know, different things from Amazon frequently, so, you know, I always have like a can in my shop. It goes quite a ways. I just buy it a quart at a time, but you can buy it in the gallon containers if you have that big of a project. You can also see on that upspout, that smoke spout there, what's left of the label. After like 2 coats, the label just came right off. I mean, just by brushing. But the purpose really is to get the paint off. But this stuff will, I mean, strip anything off of it that's on there. Now, like I said, it's not going to be 100%. So you need to figure out another way, whether it's that wire brush cup wheel, or, you know, that abrasive paint removing pad or whatever you want to use to get the rest of the remnant off. Okay, here's just a finished photograph. We sanded it down. We put another couple of coats of paint on it. The welds are a little choppy, but this thing works great. We tried it. I'm sure he'll have a lot of fun with it. All right, I think that's about it. There's not a whole lot of questions. The stuff works great. That's just my review on it. You got any questions, drop them in the comments below. I'll get back to you. I hope you give me a thumbs up. I hope you click subscribe and keep following me. And I'll keep doing these projects, and I'll keep doing product reviews as I do things and I tell you what I think about them. You folks have a good day, and I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.